Hello there, how's it going? In this lesson, we are going to be creating an active element that's going to give us an objective within our gameplay. So creating a function, let's create a function for that. Creating a function, we could just call it make active. And this is going to select one of the elements, one of the squares at random, and apply a class of active to that element. So creating a random index, we're going to use math, let's use math floor. So bringing the math value down to 0, and this is just regular JavaScript math random method that gives you a random number, and math random gives you a number that's 0, decimal, and a whole bunch of digits. If you do math floor, then it rounds it down to the nearest whole number, so going down to the full number. And then we just need to specify we want to multiply it by. And because we've got our squares, and as we know, squares is an array that we do have a value of, and we have a length of. So we can utilize that length, and we see it comes up as 25. And remember, we need to keep this dynamic, and we actually have 24 elements that are visible, so we need to make a slight adjustment here. But let's use squares length in order to get a random value. So now with this formula, we do have a possibility of having 0, and we don't want 0. So let's do a condition here to check to see what the value is, and checking to see if random index is not equal to 0. So making sure that if we do by chance get a 0, that 1 in 25 chance it's a 0, then we're just going to do the function again. So we'll do else statement here and launch make active again. So it'll keep doing the make active until we get the result that we want. So looping through the function until we finally get a value that's not conflicting with what we're looking for. There's also something else that we need to make to look at, and we don't want the new active object to ever end up to be the same place as the player square value. So this is where we're going to start using that player square value, and we want to make sure that that is not equal to the random index value. And if both of those are good, then we are ready to generate our position using that random index. So first of all, let's see what number we can pull out. And because this is a function, we can run that within our console. So typing in that make active, you see that we're selecting one of those elements there, and we're returning back 14. If we do it again, we get 11, 16, and so on. So we can use this in order to return back one of those squares. Remember that squares array that we have that contains all the elements. This is where we can use that random index value that we're just generating. And because this is referring to the element, we can update that class list and add the class of active to it. So let's see how that works. And if you wanted to see which element we're selecting and we want to output that, we can output that in the console instead to have other than the number. So now when we do make active function, we generate randomly one of the squares, turns green. So that's our objective of the game, is for the player to be able to move over those squares. And of course, we're only going to have one, and whenever the player moves over the square, then we're going to update it, and that's going to score a point. And as you can see, they're disappearing, so we need to account for that, and we can do all of that in the upcoming lesson. So for now, add in a function that can make one of the elements, or a bunch of elements, active. Make sure that it's within the spectrum of elements that are available, as well as make sure that we're not overlapping the current square that the player is on. So add that into your project, and you're going to be ready to complete this within the next lesson, where we're going to be creating these objectives within our functions and then checking to see if the player is on top of the correct cell. So that's still all to come.